y'all, I'm April.
And I'm Caroline.
And this
is your Bloody Happy Hour.
Caroline, are you ready for this?
This is your newest guilty pleasure.
It's the bloodiest part of your week.
Did we say something about it also being happy hour?
Show did.
Because we're about to be sipping on some murder. Bloody Happy Hour.
Hey y'all, this is April.
You just keep it in.
Turn Up Tuesday.
Turn up. Tuesday.
Quickie time. This one is a little special because we are going to have a guest. It is a local case, and it was ongoing in September 2020 for a while. It's still kind of ongoing, even though there's a little bit of closure. So I'm going to call the sister of the victim that we are going to talk about during this. The victim's name is Carolyn Riggins.
Okay.
Okay, and this story's out of Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
Stay tuned. Hey, Kim.
Hey there.
How are you?
I am doing okay. How about you?
Good. So can you hear us? Can you hear us fine?
Yes, I can. I'm about to pull over real quickly and park,
Okay.
so you don't hear my road noise.
So I have my co-host Caroline here. Say hi, Caroline.
Hi.
Hi, Caroline. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, no problem at all.
So Caroline knows a little bit about the case.
Very little.
I've briefed her
Yeah.
on and on throughout. Her long-term and short-term memory is horrible. So she does know a little bit about it, but I'm well-versed in it. But I don't know what's been going on here lately. So we're recording now, but what I want to do is let you tell us a little bit about Carolyn and then kind of take us back to like that week that she went missing. I'm going to refer them to the Vanish podcast too that you did because that was multiple parts and very detailed. But we can tell them like what happened, how she went missing, all the sketchy part of it, and then the conclusion, and then kind of where it is now and your frustrations. And then maybe at the end, like a call to action, like how can we help? I know you had the petition. What should we do? Because if it ended the way I think that it ended, what I last heard, you guys have a little bit of closure, but not really.
I think we are at the point of acceptance.
Okay.
And the Texas Rangers did pick up the case, so there's a little bit of a fire still burning.
Good. Okay. Well, let's do it. Okay. Hi, y'all. Okay. So who I have on the phone is Kim Haynes, and she is the sister of Carolyn Riggins. And Kim, welcome. Kim, what I'd like you to do is just tell everybody just a little bit about your sister.
Okay, so, with the fact that I haven't really healed, I cry a lot, so
It's okay.
try to hear what I say through my tears.
It's okay.
Nice. Carolyn was my oldest sister. There's about 21 years between the two of us. And I remember her being, because she had children, one was older than me and the other two were just like 3 or 4 years younger than me. So I remember growing up with her and my nieces and feeling like really tied to Carolyn because she was, when my mom was working, I was with Carolyn. And as I grew older, she was kind of that older sister that I could go to and talk to her about things that I couldn't with my mom, talk about boys or talk about, just different life types of things. Because my mom was older. She was a little strict and a little whatever. And Carolyn was just that person for me. And I just remember she had the biggest laugh. She loved hard. she did everything hard. If she got angry, it was hard. If it, just all those things. But the one thing about her is that if she could do anything for anybody, she would. She was not a selfish person. She was, I don't know, she was the oldest kid of 8. And so she had to figure out some things on her own.
Wow. Yes. That's what I remember, is that she was that in-between mother figure, big sister figure that's kind of a perfect little combination for a older sibling.
Was she the oldest of the bunch?
She was.
Yes.
She was.
She's the oldest out of all of us. And I'm the youngest, so there's a 21-year span there.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I have a younger sister who, she's probably 13 years younger, so. But that's, so I kind of get that, but yeah, that's.
So how many kids did Carolyn end up having?
So Carolyn has had 3 daughters, and 5 years before Carolyn went missing, her middle daughter, my niece Connie, passed away. She was 41 years old, and died of natural causes at the age of 41.
Yeah, okay, I remember that. They found her in her apartment. Right,
she's been there she was there several days with my little great niece. 2-year-old at the time. And so my 2 nieces, Carolyn's daughters, who are still with us, they've just had a lot of trauma.
Yes.
A lot of grief. And just traumatic. How do you understand that your 41-year-old sister passed away of natural causes?
Right.
41.
Right. 41.
And how do you understand that your mom, months before she turned 70 years old, just disappears?
Oh my gosh.
I'm so sorry for the trauma that the family, you and your family have gone through. But let's go to that week that she disappeared and kind of what her routine was during this time, and what happened.
So I can remember that day. It was a Wednesday that I got the call from my niece, and I missed it. I was out working in my yard, and when I got in, I called her back, and I can just remember feeling like time stopped moving, to hear my niece say, "Mama's missing, and we don't know where she is." And it was, and then because I'm kind of a doer, I have to do things to be busy, to whatever, and it just seems like time was still standing still, and I had made calls to all my family members and everything, and within an hour, I was on my way up to Fort Worth to meet up with my nieces and their kiddos and everything. And Carolyn was disabled, so she wasn't working, but I mean, she was almost 70. She had worked a lot of her life. She worked as a caregiver, working with disabled people, working at nursing homes. She had started her nursing license, but she didn't get a chance to finish it because of just not having enough help. I mean, like I said, she was taking care of me when my mom was working, and she had her own children, so she didn't have a chance to finish her nursing. But she was just that person. She was a nurse at heart. She was going to care for people. She was going to just be there and be there for support and things like that. So as she got older, her hobby was bingo. We called it her job. If somebody asked where Carolyn was, it was, "Oh, she's at work." And but she just absolutely loved it. And I think all of us at one time or another went to go play bingo with her, just to share that with her or whatever. And but it was her addiction. And she had just moved to Fort Worth 10 days before she went missing. She had just moved into her apartment, and she had lived in Garland before that with her youngest daughter, Gail. And Before that, she had lived in Fort Worth before. She had lived with me a couple times.
So she had a
because she was-
stroke, right? She had a stroke, and so she was dealing with some of the physical part of that, right?
Yeah, and the stroke, it was amazing. I mean, her spirit, it was amazing that she stroked on roughly 2/3 of her brain. There was damage on both sides. She had lost her peripheral vision on her left side. Couldn't use, I can't remember which side of the body that was, like she had like a limp with it in her arm. She couldn't use it as much. But I mean, within days, I was at the hospital from when they called and said Mom had a stroke. I was in the hospital with her every single day as she recovered, and just watching this lady, seeing that image of the x-ray of her brain and watching this lady start using her arm as if never anything happened, to have all of her memories, to have all of her functions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman is a warrior.
Wow.
And so after that, she and the doctors termed it as stroke dementia. It's not a dementia, like she's not oriented to time and place, or she doesn't know who she belongs to, and that's what I stress to the police. She knows who she belongs to. But she would just forget things, and her peripheral vision made her not see well when she was driving. She was capable of doing all the adult living types of things that she needed to do, but there were things, the stroke dementia caused her to forget if she was cooking, or to those types of things, that there was just no, maybe it's not the short-term memory that was there. Her long-term memory was perfect.
Right, right.
And so she wasn't driving for a majority of the time, and that's how I got to go to bingo with her a lot, is because I would take her. And but once she moved up there, she was kind of feeling, I think people with disabilities or older people start feeling the effects of their independence being taken away from them. And so she pressed my nieces to get her a car, and so they let her buy a car, and she was driving, and she knew how to get around. She could, as long as she drove the routes, and I mean, she had been living up there for several years, so she knew where she was going. But my sister had severe anxiety, and if her peripheral vision was bothering her, she would miss some turns, and if she realized that she wasn't, like she was lost or whatever, her anxiety would get the best of her.
Okay.
And it would cause her to, so she had started driving. I didn't know she was driving until maybe 2 weeks before she went missing. And I remember telling my niece, y'all have got to get a GPS monitor on that car, because it's possible that she could get lost. And so we started researching it, and I was looking at it, and that was before air tags and, you know, those things like that. And she didn't always take her cell phone with her, so we couldn't depend on that. And she didn't like smartphones, so you wouldn't be able to give her an iPhone and let her have the, you know, be on the Find My app or whatever.
Right.
So, and I remember they came down to get all of her stuff out of storage in Temple, where I live, and they went back up there. 4th of July, I didn't make it up there for the get-together they had, but my other sister and her kids and husband went. And so my last time seeing her was about June 30th.
Okay.
And so she went to bingo the night of the 11th, and that's the last time she was seen alive anywhere. But she had gone to bingo that
June
Thursday,
11th?
Friday. Yes.
Okay.
July 11th.
July
I'm sorry.
11th, 2020.
2020. And she had gone that Thursday night, that Friday night, and the 11th was a Saturday. And my sister, she had just moved into her apartment, so she had that, you know, that independence thing. She, you know, I got my car, I've got my apartment, and y'all don't need, I'm grown, y'all don't need to be taking on me. And so sometimes, if I mean, and this was even before she moved, if she didn't feel like talking to you, she wasn't answering the phone. And so, and she had kind of a relationship with my nieces where she was like, I'm really not answering your calls. Sometimes, like, if they would upset her or have her bothered about something.
Mm-hmm.
So that day, she had gone grocery shopping with my great niece. They'd gotten things put away, and she was tired because she had also, after the stroke, she had knee surgery, she had hip surgery. So her body was, she was tired. So she told him, yeah, I'm going to go to sleep. I don't think I'm going to go play bingo tonight. So we didn't even know she had played bingo until on the 15th. Well, it was the night of the 14th that my nieces had been trying to call her. They had driven by the apartment. And so, like, on the 12th, they called. She didn't answer, so they figured she was out running around because when they drove by, her car was gone. Both of my nieces had called her, and I think my great nieces had called also, just randomly, not because they were looking for her. They didn't think anything had happened. On the 13th, they called, and still no answer. And so they're getting a little more worried. And they're like, okay, she gets mad sometimes, but she's never mad this long. And so they drove by again. And then the 14th, after they got off work, they're like, we got to go by there. And they went by and they knocked. The car wasn't out in the parking lot anywhere. And they called Fort Worth PD to do a well check. And something about, I think nobody was on the lease, so they couldn't give anybody a key. The police couldn't do anything. There was no sign that anything had happened. So my nieces were like, we've got to get into the apartment to see if she's there because it's not like her to have not responded by now. And she used to go out on her patio and smoke, so they're like, maybe this door is unlocked, the patio door. And sure enough, it was. And they got in there. I think my niece's husband may have gone in there, or I don't know who went in, but she wasn't there. Her phone, they found her phone there in the apartment. And so they're like, well, what now?
Yeah. So what about her purse? Was her purse in the apartment?
So no purse was there. She didn't, she had two phones. They had just gotten her a new smartphone and she hated it. Because, she's older, she's got these physical limitations and a little bit of a memory limitation. So she just wasn't into using a new phone, especially a smartphone. And so she just left it there, and she didn't always take it with her, but she had gotten lost before, and I didn't know about this, but my niece was like, she knew where she was, and she memorized my niece's phone number, so she got to a convenience store, she called, and she's like, hey, y'all, I'm lost, this is where I am, so my niece went to pick her up. And so that was something that it was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like took me aback that she was driving and she had been lost and I didn't know about it, but she was still driving. So that's one of those things that I'm like, goodness, if I had just been more intentional about finding a GPS device that we could pay for or we could look into, or to find out if there was something available through like DHH or something, DHHS. And so this time they're like, she would have called by now. If she was lost, she would have called. So that once the police were there and they got the report and my nieces officially reported her missing, it was after midnight. And I'm pointing this out because it's a bone of contention with Fort Worth PD also. So they made the report, and by the time the officers were there and processed, did the report and everything, it was the morning of the 15th. So it was like 12:30 a.m. or whatever. And at this time I was in Fort Worth, and I just rallied my family, and we had a Zoom call put together. I did an application with Texas EquiSearch. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Texas EquiSearch.
Tim Miller. So let me recap real quick. So she goes to bingo, and she does not come home from bingo. And
does not come home from bingo.
Does not come home from bingo. I'm just trying to explain to Caroline too. And then but y'all didn't know she went to bingo. Y'all just know that she has not been at home. So they called the police.
Yeah.
Was there a silver alert done?
What's that?
So,
Amber alert,
that's
silver
another,
alert.
Silver alert. That's another contentious thing.
Okay.
They did not do a silver alert. So,
They did not do a silver alert. And so now all y'all know that is she was at bingo. So I know you're always down to find out what's happening. Did y'all talk to the bingo people?
So we go to the bingo hall that day, the 15th, because like I said, I was like, okay, I'm going to Fort Worth. I got there. We had flyers made up that afternoon. Went to the bingo hall, and on the 15th, that day is the day that we found out that she had been there that Saturday when she said she was tired and wasn't going to go. But she was there, and then a lot of people were like, she was on a lucky winning streak, and I mean, she won between Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. She had won approximately 4 jackpots, ranging in value from $500 to $750 each, and they said, and she wasn't only hitting big, she was hitting the little ones too. So, and one lady laughed and she said, it was funny because when she hit the big jackpot, she didn't tip out. But when she hit the smaller ones, she would tip out to the workers or whatever. Mm-hmm. But so people were very aware of how she was winning and likely the amount of money she was winning because none of them can remember that she was splitting jackpots. So we think that she had in excess of $2,000
cash on her.
Normally, yes. And normally she would go to the bank and make a deposit after her winning, but once things got rolling and we checked the cameras, had the cameras checked at the bank, and my niece checked her accounts online, she hadn't made any deposits over those nights.
Okay.
And the few receipts that we did find in her house from before that, that Saturday when she was last seen with my great niece, she was paying for everything in cash mostly.
Okay.
So we are certain that she had her cash on her. And the problem with Fort Worth PD started almost immediately. They questioned us as to why my nieces took so long to report her missing. And I mean, if you victim blame at all, let's start here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was almost like that felt like that was their catalyst to decide that my sister wasn't important enough to do an investigation.
They had already made up their mind how they were going to go about it.
They had already made up their mind. She's not important to them. She's not important to us.
Yeah.
And my niece is important. They're look at her call logs. You can see how many times we called her. Not that we have to prove that to you, but don't let this be the reason that you don't value my sister, my mom's, my aunts, my cousin's life. Just don't let that be the reason.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Welcome to One Star Rewind, a new podcast about those dreaded one-star reviews that every business owner hates to receive, but yet every customer loves to read. During this podcast, we will peel back that one-star review to better understand how it happened, when it happened, and what the business owner is doing after receiving that one-star review. This podcast will be about love, hate, and laughter. On One Star Rewind, we will meet with real business owners who will tell their stories and how they do rely on reviews for their business. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or download us at roguemedianetwork.com. Please subscribe, but only rate and review for not a one-star review. Join us each time for a new review and a new story.
What's your emergency?
Do you hear that? It's coming from the house.
It's coming from inside the house? Do you mean? Could it be?
The Poltergeist. New from Rogue Media. Two haunted hotties talking about haunted places. Every episode, we dive deep into the darkest places and give you a bit of history.
We're getting spooky in all the right places.
You've gobbled your last ghoul.
Follow along for the craziest and spookiest stories with Debbie's Dark Tourism. The Stanley Hotel,
Winchester House,
The Alamo,
Hotel Monte Vista,
and more spooky places. Find us at _Poltergals. POLTERGALS.
Look over your shoulder. It's us,
The Poltergals. Wherever you consume the podcast, you can find us there.
Hi, this is Sarah.
And I'm Carter.
And this is Some of Our Thoughts.
We're two Southern sommeliers, and we want to share everything we love and know about wine. We started hanging out during quarantine and cooking and drinking and listening to music, and we just thought this would be a great way to bring everything we know to you guys.
We will make wine knowledge and food pairings easy and approachable. So put on your favorite vinyl, grab your favorite glass of wine, tune into our show, and let's have some fun.
Wine and vinyl. So check us out on roguemedianetwork.com or wherever you get your favorite podcast. We'll be talking about a lot.
And so, Caroline, I'm working with Kim at this time. We're in the summer and we're going into the school year, and all I've seen is that her sister's gone missing. So she's actually having to keep her normal life going, Kim and her family, while their sister was missing. But, you know, Kim, on our podcast, we have a slogan. We say, stay aware, stay alive, always be DTF. But DTF is down to find, down to figure it out. And so you were real DTF because Kim organized the searches. She had flyers made. She had a Where's Carolyn page. Tim Miller, who is EquiSearch that found Vanessa Guillen and does all the searching for the bodies. He came. He helped them search. And so she was trying to do above and beyond, but probably with the Fort Worth Police Department wasn't helping you do, right?
Right. I can't tell you how many times I ask them, what do y'all do? How do you help families in this search? What are the resources you have available? And they're basically like, and they initially told their PIO went on when he was talking about it, because we did everything to get the news stations, and everything involved, and their PIO said, you know, maybe she took her winnings and went on a long vacation, and just things like that, that I don't think it was intentionally callous, but I think it's almost like that's their culture, and so they don't even realize that they're acting in their culture. And so they didn't do a silver alert, and I was on the phone with now, mind you, Fort Worth PD does not have detectives who work in missing persons. They are, and I don't say just officers to like minimize their role, but detectives go through special training to get that title, to know how to do things differently. So they have officers in Fort Worth. And I can remember because I was calling them detective, and then when I called and left the message, it was like, this is Officer Jones. And I was like, I'm sorry. And I asked him, is it officer or detective? I don't want to address you incorrectly. And I think I offended him by that, but I just wanted to give him the right title. But Officer Jones is on the phone with my niece, Gail, and I, and this is on the 16th. It seems like time is like going half beat. And he had gotten the call at 2:30 that morning of the 15th to know that he was assigned to the missing persons case. he didn't call all day the 15th. On the 16th, I was like, okay, I'm going to give him time to get in the office or whatever. And he didn't call, so I called him. He picks up, and he's like, I was on vacation, sorry.
Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh. I can't.
And so because he was on vacation, my sister's information was not entered into TCIC or NCIC until, and I'm on the phone with him, and he's saying it's being entered as we speak.
Likely story.
Days later.
Yeah. So and then I'm already in action. I've got our Zoom meetings going. I've done the application with Tim Miller for EquiSearch. We're having our family meeting, and I tell him, hey, I would like for you to jump on the Zoom meeting if you can, just to let my family know who you are or whatever, because, I mean, we really need something right now. And he said he works from 8 to 5, and the meeting, unfortunately, was after 5. So
the cop.
Oh,
wow. Sorry you're out.
Yeah.
Sorry your sister is missing outside his work hours.
Yeah.
How inconvenient.
Yeah, so, and the silver alert thing, we're on the phone the day when we finally get to talk to him. It's about 11 that morning when I had to call him because he was on vacation. And I'm being a little snarky right now, so I don't want to discredit our story by being snarky, so I'll do better. But he asked my niece for documentation that my sister is disabled, because one of the requirements for the silver alert is that they have to be over 65, I believe. I can't remember. There are 3 of them, and one of them is documentation from a medical provider of, what puts them at risk, what puts them at danger. And so my niece calls the doctors. My sister's doctors were all in the Temple area, so she got this letter sent over. And we called Officer Jones about 4 o'clock that afternoon on the 16th, and he goes, no, we don't need it. And we were like, okay, because, if anybody knows how the Silver Alert system works, they do need that documentation.
Mm-hmm.
But while you're waiting on it, should not prevent you from putting in the request for the Silver Alert, right?
Yeah.
And it has to be done within 24 hours. But the law is not very clear about that 24 hours of being reported missing, or 24 hours after my nieces and I do our own investigation and figure out that she's been gone since the 11th. Well, Fort Worth PD did their own interpretation of the law and said that because she was actually missing on the 11th, it was beyond the 72 hours? I can't remember the number of hours, but it was beyond that number of hours for them to request the Silver Alert.
Mm-hmm.
Which I said, well, if we hadn't gone out to the bingo hall yesterday while you were on vacation, we wouldn't even know that she was missing on the 11th.
Yeah.
So they're not doing the Silver Alert because you waited
too
too long?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a time.
So the window's closed.
Oh, hell.
But the law is not, it doesn't say from when you finally figure out when she actually went missing or from the time that she's reported missing.
Yeah.
And my interpretation of the law is from the report of missing, because we haven't done an investigation yet. We don't know otherwise.
Yeah.
And and because we had gone to the bingo that evening of the 15th, once we got the flyers done and everything, we knew she was missing on the 11th because everybody started telling us that.
Okay.
And people were talking about how everybody knew she had won. And there's some people that reached out to us. There's a regular player there, and he was talking about, I remember a night when I won a lot. I was glad that the security guard was there to walk me out because, that's their purpose.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm assuming y'all are just like searching everywhere for the car. I mean, just trying to look for it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We had our first search. I got to Fort Worth on the 15th. We had our first search on the 20th or 21st when Tim Miller came up there, and it was supposed to be a day or two before, but there was horrible storms in Houston. And I mean, we were driving through parking lots, and we had people who I figured out how to do grid searches by the grace of God,
oh
because
my gosh.
I mean, I was like, so what do? I need to get some maps. I need to know where to send people to. I found apps. I found all these things to map things out, to send people where they needed to go, to be able to track all this stuff. And we've got people searching Walmart parking lots after closing because if her car's there, it's still going to be there, you know?
Yeah.
Searching huge parking lots, driving through apartments to see if maybe her car was dumped or hidden. And I mean, we met so many amazing people who helped us. I mean, and just from the go, they don't know us from Adam or Eve. And I put this Facebook thing up. I created the Finding Carolyn page, and the response was amazing. I mean, some of our searches we had maybe 9 or 10 people, but I'm like, that's 9 or 10 people more than me right now.
Yeah.
And what a blessing. And we had as many as 40 people on some searches, so it was an amazing outpouring of help and support from people.
And y'all would meet at the bingo hall in Watauga. Can't ever say that right. And so, how did the bingo hall people, after a certain amount of time, start treating y'all? Did they continue to be supportive?
They were the most antagonistic group of people. There were a couple, I'll take that back. There were a couple people who were regular players who poured their hearts out. Some of them came to our searches. The workers there, it was a different story. It was almost like feeling like, you guys mad at us? Is it, and why? Every time that we set up for a search, and I did a search every week, and they would be 2 or 3 days long, somebody from that bingo hall would get into it with somebody from our family or the people helping us. They would ask us why we were asking questions, and they would tell others. They would tell people, like there's this one guy who came to tell us about when he had won and the security guard helped him out. They called him in there, and I don't know what was said in there, but when he came back out, this man had tears in his eyes, and basically told us, I can't talk to y'all. And that we need to let the police take care of this.
Wow.
So that alone there, and I mean that whole plaza where, because I mean, I've honed my skills. If I was young enough, I'd go and take a detective test myself. Because I mean, I started doing background searches on all these things and businesses there that
love it.
They're not really businesses, but they are a storefront, and people with briefcases walk in and out of there. So I mean, there were so many creepy things going on in that whole plaza. Like the place that my sister would go, there's a little gas station on the corner by the bingo hall. And she would go there to get her cup of ice and her cigarettes if she needed cigarettes or whatever to go play bingo. And she had been in there. People had told us they saw her in there. And when we went to request video, because some of the businesses were willing to give us the report or like give us the video or whatever without a police report, or if the police called and said something, we go to them and they're like, no, we don't have cameras. Bingo hall, no, we don't have cameras. And
sounds a little suspicious.
Little suspicious, you know, bingo hall without cameras? Are you serious right now?
So let's fast forward to when, around the time where you get that phone call or that Facebook message, or I forgot what it was, and they actually found your sister's car.
Okay. So it's the October 24th, 2 days after my birthday, and I can remember, and I tell you guys, some things are just printed on your brain. I can remember everything I did. I'm getting my nails done, and I see this number on my phone, and I know instantly somebody's calling to tell me that they found my sister, and I don't know how or why I knew, but I knew. And it's a young guy, and this guy cannot hold it together. And I mean, I can't imagine being 30 years old out hunting with my dad this young man was out hunting with his dad and coming up on a vehicle with human remains in it. And so he's trying to keep it together to tell me, and I tell him, hey, I'm going to have to call you back. I'm driving right now. And so I go and I call him back, and I don't want to ask him details, but it's almost like that thing that I need to know. I need to, where was she? How was she? And what was there and what's around it? And it just broke my heart because as a teacher, I don't know, I think I have like this protective nature or whatever, but and I mean, 30's not young, but I'm 50.
Right.
So I just feel like I want to protect him from having to deal with our trauma too. And we ended up having lots of conversations after that. I went to go meet him and his father.
Oh,
and,
so kind of tell the listeners where she was, how far it was from the actual bingo, and where she lived. Yeah. And then she was deep in some woods. So
yeah. So she was found in Cook County, outside of Gainesville, probably, I don't even know if it was 10 miles from the Red River, the border with Texas and Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And people at the bingo hall had suspected that she had gone to WinStar. So, I mean, that's definitely in that direction. But she was found in this, it's an actual Federal Reserve where people go hunting, basically.
Okay.
And it used to be an old oil field. And so there are all these oil cats, like my niece and I went out there to walk the area and to go out to where her vehicle was found. And April and Carolyn, I tell you, there's absolutely no way. My sister didn't have her glasses. They were never recovered. She didn't, and it's pitch dark out here. It's pitch dark. There's absolutely no way my sister drove herself out there, and that's Fort Worth PD decided. While they talked about we need to go on the facts, they decided that she had a medical event, drove herself out there, and starved to death in her back seat. My sister was found in the back seat of her vehicle.
She was found in the back.
And this is 60 miles away. This is an hour and a half to hour and 40 minutes away.
Yes, and
from from the bingo hall.
Yeah,
I'm researching
from the bingo hall. How far off from I-35 would it have been? I-35 that should have been driving, or 20 or?
If in fact she had been going, which she wouldn't have, she had
right.
been to WinStar since like 2009 before her stroke or whatever. But it was probably about 20 miles off of I-35 north. But not only the distance, but the terrain, virtually impossible.
It's just in the middle of a fort, like a.
Caroline's got it pulled up, and it's literally. We'll put this on our Instagram for our listeners, but it's in the middle of a forest. Like it's no way that she could have just accidentally exited, took the wrong exit, and took like one wrong turn and ended up there.
Not even street.
This is 20 miles away from a main road, and then there's not even a dirt road or any road around there. There's grass and there's trees. And wasn't her car like into the trees? Like it's not just on the edge of some trees. It was deep in the trees, like hidden,
and the
like
front
Jelani
bumpers
Day.
Let me tell you this. My niece and I went out there in a truck. There were areas of that terrain that we could not go out into in a truck. My sister drove a Lincoln Continental.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely no way that she drove through those areas without her glasses in the dark or in any other situation. And the car just happens to be snugly fit between some saplings and things like that. But Fort Worth PD's theory was that she had a medical event. She didn't know where she was going, and that's just where she ended up.
She was dead in the back seat. And Caroline, they did not process the car they didn't do any crime scene investigation. They didn't check for fingerprints. They did not even check to see if the driver's seat would have been like where Carolyn's height, would have been, right? Like, you're taller than me.
Yeah.
Your driver's seat's going to be different than my driver's seat, like the placement of the driver's seat. And then she was in the back seat, so it's not like she was in the driver's seat. They assumed she drove herself way out there with no glasses and then crawled in the back seat to die. But she's a fighter. She would not have even crawled. If that was even close, I think if she's the fighter like y'all said she was, they would have found her wandering, like in the field trying to walk or get away or something.
Yeah. Okay, was the money in the car?
How much money did they find on her?
$320, $360.
And she won $2,000?
Yeah, and she probably should have had over $2,000.
Okay, hello. Like,
yeah. And the interesting thing about that,
she didn't go spend it.
Found, exactly. And she, if anybody knows about crimes against women, what is the first thought when you find a woman who does not have pants or underwear on? What's the first thought?
Oh, she's been raped.
There you have it.
Yeah.
She didn't have on. Did you know this?
She was in the back seat. She was in the back seat, and her pants were on the front seat. And they weren't inventoried. They weren't given to us. They didn't go with her remains to the morgue. And
they did not. That's not out there.
No, that's not even reported.
They're not even reporting that. Like, they're completely hiding.
Yeah, it's something that I couldn't even come to grips with. And the only reason we knew is because I requested the crime scene photos from Cook County and saw them.
Oh my gosh.
And even after that, Cook County had sent all this to Fort Worth, and they're like, listen, we need help with this. We need you guys to process. And they sent them the file. And with file transfers, and you can do it with your own Dropbox, if you transfer a file, you can tell when it's been accessed or opened.
Mm-hmm.
Fort Worth PD never opened the file with the crime scene photos.
And they were like, well, it didn't happen in our jurisdiction, so it's not our case anymore, basically, right? And so then Cook County is like, well,
we need help.
Okay.
And so Fort Worth PD, even though they said it wasn't their jurisdiction, they put a hold on my sister's vehicle there at the because it was towed off to a tow yard there. And they put the hold on the vehicle. And so while the hold was on it, we're like, okay, that means they're doing something. Car's going to be processed, because we're like, when's this going to happen? Nothing happened. And we got a letter from the tow company saying the car was going to be destroyed, or we get paid $1,200 to get it. And we're not understanding. I'm like, what? I called them, and they're like, well, Fort Worth PD took the hold off, and you guys can come get it, but it's labeled as a biological hazard. And I'm like, we don't want the car. We want it, processed. We want this to be taken care of. And I called Fort Worth PD, and they reluctantly put another hold on the vehicle. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to do it now. Towards the end of the story, this 2-year-long story, they end up taking the hold off. They never tell us about it. The car is sold.
Sold?
To yes, and it's sold to somebody who's like a salvage yard that's going to crush it, or take the parts of value and crush it. And Fort Worth PD never told us. The tow yard people had lost my contact information, and they couldn't find me.
So did it get crushed? Did it get crushed?
it ultimately, and I don't think it's been crushed to this day. As of June, it still had not been crushed.
Okay. Because there were a couple times when I was listening, you were like, they told you that the car's been crushed, that they are following the directive of the police department. Call them. Okay, let's go. If you don't mind, what state? I feel like you told me, but I don't want to get it mixed up with any of the other cases. What state was Carolyn's body in when they found her?
State of Texas.
No. What state? No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God.
I did the same thing. I was like, April is in Texas.
Sorry.
I was like,
condition. What condition?
What
there
condition?
You go.
Sorry.
I was like, are you in a different story? We're still in Texas.
I was like, she needs to clarify it. But anyway, so here's the thing. When her remains were found, Cook County sent her off to Dallas County medical examiner to be autopsied. After we received her body, we had our own autopsy done. And we don't know anything at this point because Dallas County won't share the autopsy with us. They said it has to be released by the judge in Cook County. And the Cook County judge is like, I don't know why they're saying that. You're the family. And so there's this whole to-do. We didn't get a copy of the autopsy until last year, middle of the year, and I got it from someone who happened to see it on the desk of someone else and took pictures of it.
What?
Did you? Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we have a final meeting with Fort Worth PD to basically say these are expectations, these are things we want. We found out that the car hadn't been crushed, where the sergeant had been telling us it's it was sold. It's their property. We don't have any control of it. And so we found that there's a lady who worked with us who was able to do all the searches through like the I guess it's a GPS or a transfer. I don't know who controls like when cars are crushed or destroyed or whatever, how it's tracked. But she found the vehicle, and we contact the people who have the vehicle, and they're immediately like bothered by the whole situation, which I think I would be too if these people are coming telling me this vehicle is a part of a crime scene or whatever, and we're trying to figure out what's going on with it. And so they don't want to talk to us. They're like, they called the Cook County Sheriff, and the sheriff, whoever they talked to, said, don't talk to anybody but us. So now the sheriff's office is getting involved again.
Oh my gosh.
And Fort Worth PD, we call them and say, why did y'all tell us that this car was destroyed? And we only found that day that they released a hold on my sister's car on March 31st, somewhere thereabouts. There's no explanation as to why they released it and what they knew or what they hadn't known. But anyway, so we document the fact that it hadn't been destroyed and y'all need to do something different. And so we demanded that they get the car and they get it processed. And I asked that two of the people who are working with us go along with them when it's processed so that it can be videoed and everything is cataloged, right?
Right.
I don't know how Fort Worth PD works or how they follow through with things, but they go out to process the vehicle. They don't contact the people who are supposed to go with them. They say they don't find any blood, DNA in the vehicle. My sister died in there and getting anyway, so they do all this stuff, and it's after this point that I finally say I've got to look at the pictures, and it takes me some weeks because they're separated in folders. These are the ones with no remains, and these are the ones with remains.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm flipping through them, and I'm going through them, and it takes me about 2 weeks before finally I say, God, I don't know anything until I see this. And her body was, she was mummified. She was, there was animal activity because the window on the side of the car that she was found was partially open, probably about halfway, little less than halfway. So her organs were gone. There was nothing to do toxicology on there.
Oh gosh.
There's stuff in her car that when we're looking at the pictures, my great niece is like, I just took her to the grocery store that day. None of that was in there.
Yeah.
None of it. And my theory from the beginning is that somebody, whether or not they intended to hurt her, they intended to rob her. And through some manner, they ended up causing her death. I don't know if they intentionally killed her or if she bumped her head or, I don't know if that happened, but I think it happened. And I think my sister's vehicle was hidden away somewhere.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I just read that it was like 3 miles out and 3 miles back. Like it was that far off of the main road.
But did it look like it had been outside that whole time?
That's just it. It did not look. I mean, my car can sit outside of my house, and in 3 days, it very clearly needs a heck of a washing. My sister's car had no bird poop on it. There was very little dust settled on it. I mean, there's no way this vehicle had been out there for 4 months, 3 months.
Right.
So
and, like it had been kept in a garage or something that was a more covered area.
Yes. And so, and going along with that, April, when we had our autopsy done, the pathologist, he was like, he said her body was mummified. And I was like, but what does that mean? Tell me what that means. I mean, I know what it looks like, but why is that significant to you? And he said, well, it means to me that her body was not exposed to the elements. She was inside somewhere. And I was like, not just inside the car, but he said, yeah, she was inside. She was not exposed to summer, those great
the heat
temperature changes.
Because it's Texas heat.
And the cops don't think this is anything suspicious. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, they haven't looked at pictures. They haven't even looked at the autopsy to give it to us, and they didn't give two darns about the autopsy we had done, which it wasn't a great one either. But, and he says, there's very little insect activity. If she had been outside, even if those windows were rolled up in the car, insects would have been on her, but because the window was open, she would have had all types of eggs laid on her remains, there, things like that. And he said, so my professional opinion is that she was inside a structure. And so I talked to Fort Worth PD about that, and they acknowledged they hadn't even looked at her autopsy and this, that, and the other, but it still did not light up.
Because they've already have their conclusion made, so they do not, and we talk about that on a bunch of our stories, is that it's not that the cops sometimes don't want to be proved wrong, or they get territorial, or they just have drawn their conclusion by whatever they think, and they don't want to be swayed either way. And it's just like, why do you become a police officer if you're not willing to go above and beyond and maybe make yourself uncomfortable or work a little harder or attend a Zoom meeting after your hours and to try to find out what may have happened to somebody's mom, to somebody's sister, to somebody's daughter. And it's pitiful. So where are you guys at now? Like, what's the conclusion? I know this is years later. Luckily, they got to have a memorial service for Carolyn, and that was some good closure, but then no answers. Way better than not knowing where she is, but then no answers. And when you have no answers, your mind wanders to the worst, like to the darkest places. So how are y'all dealing now with it all? And where are we at the end of this?
I think we are all healing. I think we have resolved that Fort Worth PD does not play a role in any ultimate resolution. And the Texas Rangers, because I just couldn't quit. I couldn't quit. And I reached out to the Cook County Sheriff, and because of all the interest and activity that started happening around the car and the calls that they were getting, Cook County decided, you know what, we're going to ask the Texas Rangers to look at this.
Thank you, Cook County.
God, Sheriff Ray Sappington, this man, he was elected the January after Carolyn was found, so he wasn't even involved in the early processes, the early pieces. And bless God that he has a mind about what it is to do the right thing. And he says, some things were missed, and I think some other eyes need to be on this. He referred it to the Texas Rangers, and the Rangers accepted the challenge, the task, the responsibility, really, because I think Fort Worth PD shirks the responsibility.
Good.
And it's an active case with the Rangers, and I spoke with him just today, and he said they've gotten all of the investigative files from Fort Worth, and Sheriff Sappington had already given them whatever he had, which wasn't much because
they
were
do anything.
dependent upon Fort Worth PD. And they returned my sister's property to us after much ado. Well, no, actually, I don't even think we've gotten it. No, we don't. We were going to get it, and we were on our way there, and we demanded that Fort Worth PD have nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Fort Worth PD, the sergeant actually went to the sheriff's office, disparaged my dead sister. And I think if there's any one thing that had people in Cook County kind of curious, it's like, why would this man come and disparage a dead woman? What is the purpose in that? And so that was one of the things that they said, we've got to look closer.
Okay.
And the Texas Ranger, he said it's still open, and I've got to send in some emails with some names and some dates and, like recordings that we had of a lady who actually told people she knows where it happened and she could show them. And Fort Worth PD didn't think that was credible,
Wow.
but I'm hoping that the Texas Rangers will. And I ultimately think that we will all heal. We are all damaged in a way that can, it's almost like you are inducted into a club that nobody can ever understand what it is, because you hear about people missing,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't imagine dealing with that personally, and it's indescribable.
Well, just
the way things change.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Just being, knowing what you're going through, there was like parallel to so many cases and other cases that I've read about and read into. So somebody goes missing, you contact the police doesn't cooperate, you get Tim Miller to come in and search, and he can't find anything, and then it's ongoing, and then you find the body, but then you still don't have any answers, and you walk around every day kind of not knowing. And I'm just glad y'all are able to move on and think of the good and find some peace, but I'm also glad that that we have something like the Texas Rangers to come in and step in once the police departments aren't doing what they've been sworn in to do. Is there anything that our listeners can do to help bring awareness or share the case? Is there anything we can do right now?
I still have our Facebook page. It's up and active still, the Finding Carolyn. I don't do a lot of posts or updates on it. And in the process of searching for Carolyn, I met a lot of amazing people. And I, along with a couple of them, we are I'm starting a search and rescue organization, and so we've got everything in the works to be able to help families like mine.
Wow.
Families like so many people out there, so that we can be kind of, I don't know, some support in the darkest time that you could ever imagine. And just to be able, and so we've participated in searches over the last 2 years. It was another group that I was working with, and now we're developing our own, and I just can't wait till we can do what Tim Miller does and get our horses out there and to get our dogs and
amazing.
Have our cadaver dogs and do this just out of, I mean, these people are good people to do everything they did to help us search, and to now want to help me help others and all of that. It's amazing to me, and I could see doing it until I can't do it anymore. Wow. And figuring out how to be there for these.
I mean, you never know. Like, the worst circumstances could lead to something that you're going to help so many more people.
Yeah. Which
absolutely.
Was Tim Miller's whole reason for EquiSearch, because his daughter was never found.
Ugh.
The I-40. It was the I-45 killer, I think, Texas Killing Fields. And so he's helped so many families have the closure that he wasn't able to have for years. Yeah. This is like since the 70s, I feel like, is when his...
Yeah. It was early 80s. And update on Tim Miller, just before he started helping us, he had just had been successful in another lawsuit to get more remains. So they did find some of his daughter's remains. And he was able to get the remainder of those that were with the county medical examiner's office for some reason, unbeknownst to me. But he said he has had to take up his daughter's remains twice.
Oh, wow.
To be able to put those back in there. And he said he'll do it again if he gets to get everything.
Is
but
this him?
To this day, he continues that fight.
Wow. I love that he is all over. He doesn't just do it Texas. You'll find him all over helping families look for their loved ones. So, Kim, I am so excited that you decided to come on, and I know it's so hard to talk about. It's hard losing a sibling. I can't imagine how hard it is losing a sibling in the way that you guys have, and or mom or sister. And so I always think about y'all from time to time, and I'll continue to say a little prayer. We're going to share your page on our page with our listeners. Keep us updated so we can, our listeners are going to be bought in to this story. So we want to be able to keep them updated, and let us know what we can do, even if you need to come back on and be mad. And we all be mad at whatever Fort Worth Police Department that we need to. So we got your back.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad to be able to tell her story.
Yes.
The tears are less, but they're always going to be there. But it's a part of our healing when I realized I didn't cry on that part this time. So thank y'all for being a part of the healing and telling the stories of everybody that you guys have gotten to meet and talk to and all that. It's unreal how big a group we are.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I'll send this episode to you. Have a good evening.
All right. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow.
That was so good. I actually was listening the whole time.
So, guys, I been wanting to bring y'all that story. I didn't want to do it too soon. It's hard to talk about stuff like that. But she was so strong. Thank you for tuning in to that story. We're going to share her page. We will share a picture of Carolyn.
I don't know if this is a quickie anymore.
It's not a quickie, but
it was
welcome.
Great.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, you are welcome.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see y'all Next time, don't forget to
stay aware,
stay alive,
and always be DTF.
Like Kim.
Be like Kim.
She was down to find out what happened.
And she is organizing this whole new thing. She's going to just live her best life. She needs to be a detective.
She does.
She basically is about to be.
They need to fire all the Fort Worth.
And Hewitt.
And Hewitt.
Maybe they trained at the same place.
And hire Kim. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.